We're hoping for safety for everyone who is there in Florida right now, and of course for our first responders as well who are helping people in those areas. And we're going to be talking about how these back-to-back hurricanes that have hit this region might be impacting the economy as well. Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic said that this 1-2 punch, this back-to-back hurricane, could actually affect the economy for at least 6 months, especially in the supply chain factor. What sort of things could be, immediately impacted in the economy as Florida and, especially other states as well? I'm just thinking Florida because they have the double hurricane right now. So how can that be affected? And what is specific about the region there that was impacted and how that might impact trade?
Sure. I'll definitely address that. I just want to take a moment to also recognize a huge human toll. I have a lot of friends in the western part of North Carolina, and I think the situation there is worse than many people in the nation realize in terms of how much infrastructure has been destroyed. And of course, unfortunately, now the same thing is happening in Florida. So will this have impacts in the U.S. economy? Undoubtedly. I think Raphael Bostic is right. I think what's interesting is that there's a lot of gives and takes. When we think about a huge, horrific natural disaster with a huge human toll, we tend to focus solely on the negative sides of the economic impact, and for obvious reasons. The cold, hard economic facts is that the gives and takes of what happens after a catastrophe like this there's often two sides of it, because yes, I think the supply chain's already struggling, right? We've had we had the strike that was recently and probably only temporarily ended. We have increasing geopolitical issues across the world that are certainly going to affect commodity prices. All of those things are going to complicate the supply chain, I believe. And that's going to have negative economic impacts. The flip side to that, as it relates to recovering from a natural disaster, is there's going to be a lot of infrastructure spend in those regions in Western North Carolina, obviously in Florida. We don't know the overall toll yet in either of those places, but we know it's going to be grave. So there's going to be a huge amount of infrastructure spend. And so for companies, industry sectors that are construction related, that sometimes these things can actually be a huge stimulus of sorts in those areas, and that may, at least regionally, actually increase some of the manufacturing data that we're seeing. So there's a lot of push and pull when a shocking natural disaster happens. For insurance companies, I get this question a lot. So I was actually talking to our portfolio manager yesterday, who's an expert in the insurance space. She used to work in the insurance space. And she said that what often happens is it actually creates a hardening price cycle for insurers, which they take a huge hit on their balance sheet and income statement early on. But then because they're able to successfully raise prices, it leads to higher cash flows going forward. So understanding the pushes and pulls economically when something like this happens is often more complex than it seems at just at first blush.